Morning to you, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Look, we've talked an awful lot about Peter Mandelson today, rather less so about Andrew, but girls.
When the email scandal rekindled interest in Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's association with Jeffrey Epstein extends after his 2008 conviction, with holiday cards including Andrew's daughters. Today's focus is on the freshly revealed files, their contents, and the controversies that have resurrected a scandal once thought to be over. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is at the center of the scandal due to his affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein, who was convicted in Florida for recruiting minors for prostitution. In January 2026, the U.S. Department of Justice disclosed a large amount of Epstein-related documents under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, reigniting the story. Over 3 million pages of papers, thousands of films, and photographs were made public, resulting in weeks of individual discoveries.
A lot of these Epstein files do actually focus on Andrew, and of course Sarah Ferguson's just extensive contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he was convicted of soliciting a 14-year-old girl for prostitution while he was in.
This report focuses on a specific group of emails that caught notice throughout the massive leak. Reports indicate that Andrew sent holiday greetings to Epstein in 2011 and 2012, following his 2008 conviction, making him known worldwide. Those messages were claimed as containing images of Andrew's daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, a feature that pushed public reaction from incredulity into outright fury. The research makes clear that while the existence of the greetings has been widely recognized, the descriptions of the photographs and messages rely on press accounts rather than impartial public exhibits. Timing is the hinge on which this entire drama twists. Epstein's conviction took place in 2008, and by that point, his name was inseparable from sexual criminality and abuse. According to People magazine and similar outlets, one purported email, dated December 21, 2011, was sent from an address designated as HRH, the Duke of York, and it allegedly included photographs of Beatrice and Eugenie, alongside a festive message reading, "Wishing you much joy and happiness at this time and for the year ahead."
After being released from prison, contact since then, and the expectation of exchange of, shall we say, help to each other. What do you make of where Prince Andrew, ex-Prince Andrew, and Fergie are right now? She's leaving all the charities; they're being closed down. He's out of his lodge. He's lost his title. He's lost his HR.
Another card was reported on December 20th, 2012. Again with photographs and the same message, which meant contact lasted at least 4 years after the conviction. So Andrew sent these images well after his conviction, and after he said he ended their connection. The fury around these reported cards cannot be divorced from Andrew's own public words. In a 2019 BBC Newsite interview, Andrew stated that he visited Epstein in December 2010 merely to discontinue their friendship, stressing that continued association would be inappropriate following the conviction. That claim has been replayed repeatedly throughout the years, and it has become a baseline against which all later revelations are measured. What changed in January 2026 was the publication of emails from 2010 that appeared to reflect a warmer, more familiar tone than Andrew's subsequent account suggested. Among those disclosed emails was an exchange in which Epstein wrote about arranging a meeting with what he described as a 26-year-old Russian woman. In the same thread, the correspondent described as the Duke is recorded asking, "How are you? Good to be free," with Epstein answering, "Great to be free of many things." Those lines, drawn from media reporting on the DOJ revelation, added weight to claims that interaction between the two men persisted beyond what Andrew later stated publicly. And this is where the holiday cards take on added meaning. Because effectively, he had now gone out into the bush, cast into exile on Marsh Farm, this dilapidated cottage on the Sandingham estate, to live out his days in obscurity. He must have thought the worst was done, and he's now back in the thick of the storm. If Andrew maintained friendly correspondence in 2011 and 2012, complete with holiday greetings and family images, that pushes his relationship with Epstein well, beyond the moment at which he informed the public it had terminated. That paradox has been at the heart of renewed criticism, not simply from commentators, but from a public that has followed this narrative for more than a decade. The wider DOJ release has its own controversies, which matter because they shape how these findings are understood. The Department of Justice. acknowledged releasing more than 3 million documents. Yet, research indicates that more than 6 million pages were initially identified as potentially relevant. Victim groups and some lawmakers have criticized the process, arguing that critical materials remain withheld or excessively censored and that the rollout itself caused harm. That criticism grew after the Associated Press reported that identifying information for victims had been mistakenly exposed. An agreement was later struck to conceal the identities of almost 100 women affected by those disclosures, which meant the release became a narrative not only about transparency, but also about institutional failure and survivor protection. Epstein's conviction came in 2008. Andrew later claims he cut ties. New files were released in January 2026. Those data purportedly indicate contact continuing years later, including holiday wishes in 2011 and 2012. Each of those aspects is established through reporting, and collectively they form the reason this tale refuses to fade. This dispute did not come out of nowhere, and it is unlikely to disappear quietly. It has sharpened because it relies on records, dates, and correspondence rather than gossip alone. And it has sharpened because it directly challenges a version of events Andrew himself placed on the public record. Recent headlines have also focused heavily on Sarah Ferguson, Andrew's former wife, when the new document surfaced.
Thought essentially he had now gone off into the wilderness, sent into exile on Marsh Farm, this dilapidated cottage on the Sandringham estate, to live out his days in obscurity. He must have thought the worst was over, and he's now back in the center of the storm.
Emails in the newest release show Ferguson maintained contact with Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction, even making jokes about her daughter, Princess Eugenie, in a 2010 correspondence when Eugenie was 19 years old. In that exchange, Ferguson appears to have mentioned her daughter returning from what was described as a shagging weekend, a crass detail that has understandably caught notice and sparked fresh waves of criticism in both UK and US media. Alongside the emailed comments, Ferguson's larger association with Epstein has come under examination, with one story showing her recommending a woman Epstein might meet, and another showing her congratulating him on a supposed baby boy, a notion later denied by Epstein's brother. Her charity, Sarah's Trust, said it will close for the foreseeable.
To Emily Maitlis about being an honourable gentleman and trying to break things off with Epstein, we can see quite clearly he was lying through his teeth. He has maintained that relationship, and also now, of course, as wasn't the case before, his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson absolutely in the mire as well with these fawning emails.
Future. A decision described as being in discussion for months, but coming amid the impact from the recently released data. These discoveries have focused public focus on Ferguson, just as the controversy around Andrew's own correspondence with Epstein continues to emerge, which brings everything back to the central issue. This is a story of the emails that reopened a scandal many believed had already reached its end, and why reported holiday cards sent years after a conviction continue to provoke anger, bewilderment, and questions that remain unanswered. Now, what do you think of these photos? Is this a terrible revelation or simply pals sharing their life? Leave me a word in the comments and be sure to subscribe for more royal,